Okay, welcome class. This is a video which is going to show you how to get started on your Tiki account to create your timelines that you're going to be adding to on a weekly basis. So you're only going to create one timeline to represent all of the chapters that we're going to be studying, and every week you're going to come back to that same timeline to add to it. Now, you should see a page that looks pretty similar to this, and you want to scroll down to where it says create new timeline, and then give your timeline a title. We can try something like art history 1303. Maybe you could type in pre-Renaissance art. And then you're going to need to also give it a start date. For your start date, it should be the earliest piece of art that we're going to study. And that would be around 40,000 BCE. So for BCE, you can see here in this little pop-up help menu that tells you how to format your dates, that any dates before 99,999 BCE, we can simply enter the BCE year. So let's just go ahead in and type for 40,000 BC. Now you're going to see that it automatically gives it a month and a day to associate with it and time. You don't need to worry about any of that. For the end date, we're going to just use the current date. So whatever date it is when you sign up for it, we're going to enter in this area. So again, notice the timeline help pop up. And look at how the years that are AD are formatted. We are in AD or CE. So we're going to go ahead and just put in this format here, which is the day first, and today, the month next, and then the 4-digit year. There is no need to enter in AD after this date. Okay. And those are really the three areas that you need to get started on your timeline. You do not need to enter anything in the introduction or about, although if you didn't sign up with a name I would recognize for your username, then in the about info, I would go ahead and type in your name so I know who to identify it to very easily. And then you can go ahead and click create a new timeline. So when you open up and create your new timeline, you're going to have kind of a blank page similar to this. The very first thing you want to do is make sure you have open your timeline directions, and you'll have one of these for every week. It will just change slightly in that I am giving you the periods that I want you to chart on your timeline. The first thing you're going to need to do is to create a new span for this week's chapter. So in the admin panel of your Tiki, go to spans, and then click Create New Span. And give that title the title of your chapter. Let's say the Stone Age, for example. So we have the Stone Age. You're also going to need to enter in the beginning and the end date of this art historical period. So this is encompassing the entire chapter. So if you look at my list, you can see pretty easily that the start date is 40,000 BCE and the end date of the last period within the Stone Age is 2300 BCE. You can also find, through searching your chapter, these dates yourself, but I've already given them to you. So if you go off of here, the information should be correct. So you want to go ahead and type in 40,000 as your start date, BC, and the end date as 2300 BC. Remember that it does not matter about the date or the month that they're associated with it. It's also going to give you some other options. You can choose an overlay color. You can choose to show the text or hide it, so you can see it disappeared right there. I would put that on show. You can change the opacity of the background. You can even add an image for this span, so it will appear in the background of the span. If you ever have any questions about what any of these do, remember that there is a pop-up guide to your left when you select or highlight over anything. So it will give you that extra information. You can play around in the settings, creating the new span. You can go through the style, you can see what it looks like, the different kind of sliders that you would like. I do want you to customize this to create a beautiful timeline that is what you would want to be reflected as a project. When you're finished, you can just press save, and it's going to save it. The next part is that you need to chart the smaller periods within our chapter and their duration. So you're going to create a story for each of the periods that I list in this assignment on a weekly basis. So for instance, in the Stone Age, we have 4 smaller periods that you should know and be aware of. So we're going to create 4 stories. We're going to go one at a time, each one, and include all of the information that needs to be included in the story, which is listed below that list. So let's go ahead and try to create a story of number 1, the early Paleolithic era. Come back up to your admin panel and go to the tab that says Stories. Click it and then create a new story. When it opens, what you need to do is enter a title. This title is right here for you, Stone Age, Early Paleolithic. So you can just use Stone Age, Early Paleolithic. And we need to again chart the beginning and ending date of this smaller period. So we're going to enter in 40,000 BC and the end date of 20,000 BC. Now, we're going to go to the intro section, which is right under the start and end dates. And in it, you're going to include a summary of this period. So you're going to discuss kind of the historical context, what was happening, characteristics of the art that's made during this period, any kind of important details that you should know will be listed here in this summary. And also, please note any important events that happen within it. So you can just type in or paste in your summary if you've written it in something like Word. You can go ahead and save it at this point. And now you're going to see that we've created this story right here, Stone Age, Early Paleolithic, and we have a series of tabs at the top. You've just entered into the basic information tab to create it, and now you want to go to media. And you're going to add an image of an artwork that you choose to represent this era. So you can just go ahead and search for an image. Okay. You can click choose image and upload your image to there. So after you find your image in probably your millions of files like mine, go ahead and click open. And you should see it there. Press upload. And that's it. You go ahead and save that, or you can add a caption. I recommend putting the title. This is the Venus of Willendorf. And press save. Next, you need to select the tab that says Extra Info. And you're going to see a box here that says Full Text. This is where you're going to add in the rest of the information for your period and your artwork. So, with it, you need to identify the civilization that created it. This is going to be especially important as we go on and we're studying multiple civilizations that overlap each other. We want to be able to recognize the entry quickly. So, again, you're going to include the civilization that created it as information. You're also going to convert the dates of the artwork into years ago date, okay? And add that in there. And then lastly, you're going to add 3 bullet points, 3 sentences at least, of information about the artwork that you chose. And this should be kind of important things. The artwork's historical context, perhaps its intended use, its materials. Is it drawing, painting, cave painting, a sculpture? A location, if that's important, its formal qualities or its characteristics. So for something like this, I could talk about its scale, how big it is, and the fact that it's a sculpture in the round, possibly meant to be held. So that is important because that means that it is something intimate to be experienced. I can also talk about how it looks, its formal qualities, and I can see that this is not a realistic representation of a woman. I can make that one of my bullet points. And I can talk about the fact that she is showing exaggerated proportions in some things of her body, which also help to indicate that this may have been exaggerated to express an idea about fertility. And so using those different things, those different information that I'm adding in here, I get a real sense of what this piece is, why it looks the way it does, and what it might have been used for. That's the kind of information I'm looking for you to include here. And then all you have to do is press save, and that will save your story. And I can look at my story by closing the admin panel and seeing it right here. When I pull it up, you should be able to see your image, the summary of the historical period that we're discussing, which is the Stone Age, specifically the early Paleolithic of the Stone Age. And then you'll see your information about the artwork that you've uploaded. So the civilization that created it, its title over here in the caption, 3 bullet points about the artwork's unique context, its physical features, and did I skip this? I might have. The date and the converted years ago date. So give me the date that the book says this was created or date range, and then convert it to a years ago date for me. This is going to help you get really good at that last assignment that we were practicing. And then hopefully it'll really click in helping you gauge the relationship of the dates. So help you see how old they are versus just looking at dates that may or may not mean as much to you. This Tiki timeline is a very important resource for you. It is something that you can use to help you on your exams. It also helps you, if you're visually minded, to be able to picture how these are aligning in the overall world that we're studying. And by that, I mean that what happens is when we study periods and civilizations in art history, to really understand them, we have to look at them individually. However, that is not the way the world works. These did not come directly before or after each other the way we have to study them. In fact, many of them are developing around the same time, just in different areas. And that's important because they do have influence over each other. And you will see some similarities and differences between them as we start looking more closely at them. Now, if you ever have any questions on Tiki, then please post it in the muddiest points or discussion, or email me, or check out the Tiki FAQs. They're there to help you, and sometimes basic things like it's not accepting my AD date and I can't figure out why can be answered quickly by just viewing the FAQs.